It was late evening in the CEO's mansion. The lights were dim, the air quiet, and the smell of coffee still lingered from the morning. Ethan Cole, the billionaire CEO of Cole Enterprises, sat alone in his luxurious dining hall, a table big enough for 20, yet always set for one. He had everything: money, power, reputation, but his house felt colder than the marble floors beneath his feet. His wife had passed away years ago, and since then, silence had become his closest companion. That night, as he sat to have dinner, he noticed something small near his plate, a folded piece of paper, decorated with crayon hearts and glitter. He frowned slightly, picking it up. The handwriting was uneven, childish, but sincere. It said, "Happy birthday, Mr. Ethan. You're not just my boss. You're the kindest man I've ever met. You make your daughter smile every day, even when you don't smile yourself. I hope one day you feel as loved as you make others feel. With respect, Lily." He froze. Lily, his daughter's nanny, the quiet, kind young woman who had joined their home a few months ago. She always smiled even when she looked tired, always put others first. And now she had remembered his birthday, something even his board members and friends had forgotten. He sat there staring at the little card for a long time. No expensive gift, no grand gesture, just words from the heart. The next morning he walked into the kitchen earlier than usual. Lily was there, packing lunch for his daughter, humming softly. When she saw him, she panicked. "Oh, sir, I didn't mean to. Leave that on the table, it was just a small—" Ethan stopped her with a gentle smile. "Lily, no one's ever written me something like that in years." She lowered her eyes. "It's just words, sir." He shook his head. "No, it's more than that. You reminded me that people still care." Days turned into weeks. Ethan began to notice her more, not just as an employee, but as someone who brought life back into his home. He saw how she comforted his daughter, how she sang softly when cooking, how her eyes sparkled when she talked about dreams she thought were too small to matter. But then one day, she was gone. Her room was empty. A note lay on her bed. "I can't stay where I don't belong, sir. Thank you for everything. Please take care of your little girl. She needs you." Ethan stood there, heart pounding. He didn't realize until that moment he needed her too. He called every number he could find, searched every agency. Nothing. 2 weeks later, his daughter handed him another letter. "It came in the mail, Daddy." He opened it. It was Lily again. She had found work in another town, but at the end of the letter, one line made him stop breathing. "I wish I could have stayed, because for the first time in my life, I felt like I had a family." That evening, Ethan drove miles until he reached the small town postmarked on the letter. He found her in a modest cafe, wiping tables, her eyes tired but kind as ever. When she saw him, she froze. "Mr. Cole." He smiled, really smiled, for the first time in years. "You left before I could say thank you, and before I could give you something." He pulled out a small envelope. Inside was a new employment contract, but at the bottom he'd written something by hand. "Position, nanny, partner and co-guardian, if you'll have us." Lily's eyes filled with tears. "Are you sure, sir?" He nodded. "Don't call me sir, call me Ethan, and come home." As they stood there, his daughter ran in from the car, wrapping her arms around Lily. "Mommy, you came back." Lily looked at Ethan, shocked. He smiled softly. "She's been calling you that for weeks." Tears streamed down Lily's face. "I don't know if I deserve this." Ethan whispered, "You deserve the world." From that day, the mansion wasn't quiet anymore. The laughter returned, the warmth, the life, all because a poor nanny had once left a birthday card on the table. And the lonely CEO finally learned, sometimes love doesn't walk in with diamonds or designer heels. Sometimes it comes wrapped in crayon hearts and glitter. The morning sun slipped through the tall glass windows of the Cole mansion, spilling light onto cold marble floors that hadn't felt warmth in years. Ethan Cole, one of the youngest self-made CEOs in the city, sat alone at a long dining table, his eyes locked on the phone in his hand. Notifications blinked, meetings piled up, decisions waited. Across from him sat his little girl, Emma, quietly tracing shapes in her cereal bowl. "Daddy, are you coming to my school play today?" she asked softly. He hesitated, his thumb hovering over the screen. "I'll try, sweetheart," he said. The words were automatic, hollow. Emma looked down, nodding. "Okay," she whispered. A gentle voice entered the silence. "Good morning, Mr. Cole." Lily, the nanny, moved gracefully around the kitchen, tying her hair into a bun. She wasn't remarkable in the way people in his world were. No designer clothes or shiny shoes, but there was something honest about her, something kind. She handed Emma her lunchbox and knelt beside her. "Big day today, huh? You'll be amazing." Ethan barely looked up. "Thanks, Lily," he muttered. When he finally left for work, the house fell quiet again. Lily cleared the plates, humming softly. She'd learned to keep her presence light, invisible even, though she cared deeply for the little girl who clung to her every night when her father stayed late. That evening, she noticed the date on the calendar. It was Ethan's birthday. He hadn't said a word about it, hadn't expected anyone to. After putting Emma to bed, Lily placed a small folded card by his dinner plate before leaving. She had drawn a little balloon and written, in simple handwriting, "Happy birthday, Mr. Cole. I hope your day is as kind as your heart." When Ethan came home, the house was dark, except for the single lamp over the dining table. He sat down, exhausted, and noticed the card. No expensive gifts, no celebration, just a piece of paper. He opened it, and something inside him softened. It had been years since anyone had written to him without wanting something in return. The next morning, he watched from the study window as Lily and Emma played in the garden. Lily had fixed the broken swing herself, tying new ropes with steady hands. Emma laughed, a bright sound Ethan hadn't heard in so long. He found himself smiling, almost forgetting the meeting waiting for him. Days passed, and he began to notice more. The way Lily hummed while she worked, the way Emma clung to her hand, the way she made even this cold house feel like a home. And then one night, when he came home early, he found her sitting on the floor beside the couch, reading Emma a bedtime story. She looked up, startled, then smiled shyly. "I didn't know you were home," she said. "I didn't know bedtime could sound like music," he replied quietly. She blushed and looked down. "Emma likes stories. They help her sleep." He nodded, watching as his daughter's tiny fingers rested in Lily's lap. Something inside him stirred, a mix of gratitude and something deeper he couldn't name. A week later, the house was empty again, too quiet. Lily's room was bare, her belongings gone. On the bed lay a letter. "I can't stay where I don't belong. Thank you for giving me a roof, but it's time I find my own place. Please take care of Emma. She needs her father more than anyone." He sat down heavily, the letter trembling in his hands. The emptiness he'd once ignored now felt unbearable. For the first time, he realized it wasn't the mansion that made his life hollow. It was the absence of warmth, of connection, of her. Days turned into a week. Emma asked every night when Lily was coming back. Ethan had no answer. One morning he found an envelope in the mail addressed to Emma. Inside was a small drawing, a house with 3 stick figures holding hands, and a short note. "My dear Emma, I found a little job at a cafe. I miss you every day. Remember, you are brave, kind, and loved. Love, Miss Lily." Ethan folded the letter, holding it against his chest. Then, without a word, he grabbed his car keys. The cafe was small, tucked between two flower shops. Rain fell in soft sheets as he pushed open the door. A bell jingled, and there she was, wiping down tables, her hair loose around her shoulders. When she looked up, her eyes widened. "Mr. Cole?" she whispered. "I told you not to call me that," he said, walking closer. "It's Ethan." He reached into his coat and placed an envelope on the counter. Inside was a photo of Emma holding a crayon sign that read, "Come home, Lily." "You left before I could say thank you," he said quietly. "Before I could ask you to stay." "I don't belong in your world," she murmured, her voice shaking. "I was just the nanny." He took a slow breath. "My world hasn't felt right since you left it." Her eyes filled with tears. "Ethan." He opened the envelope again and pulled out a folded document. "It's not a contract, it's an offer," he said, "to come back, not as an employee, as family." Before she could answer, the cafe door burst open. "Mummy!" Emma's small voice rang out. She ran to Lily, throwing her arms around her. Lily froze, tears spilling as she looked at Ethan. "She's been calling you that since you left," he said softly. "Lily,